Hello students, welcome back to Let Us Master English. Today we are going to study poem 3 of class 12 CBSE. Name of the poem is Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. Contents of this video are stanza-wise explanation of the poem, meanings of difficult words, and different poetic devices appearing in the poem, and also discussion of important question answers. So let's get started. Now students, Keeping Quiet, name of the poet is Pablo Neruda. See students, in previous years, you were asked only the name of the poem and the poet. So that time you needn't learn about the poet in detail, but students, from this year MCQ questions are there, and many times the questions are based on the introduction of the poet or the author in the chapters. So we must gather information about the poet too. Pablo Neruda was born in 1904 and died in 1973. Pablo Neruda is the pen name of Neftali Ricciardo Rice Basalto, who was born in the town of Parel in Chile. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. So in your paper, they might give you an MCQ that which award was won by Pablo Neruda, or in which year did he win the Nobel Prize for Literature. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. So this is about the poet. Now let us see different stanzas in the poem and their explanation. Now students, before starting stanza-wise explanation, let us discuss the theme of the poem. What is the theme of the poem? Necessity of quiet introspection. Introspection means self-examination. And creating a feeling of mutual understanding, harmony, and universal brotherhood among human beings. So here Neruda in this poem tells us the necessity of analyzing our actions, whether what we do is right or wrong. We should sit still for some moments. We should try to examine ourselves, and this would help in creating a feeling of love, mutual understanding, peace, and universal brotherhood among human beings. So students, this theme is very important, and all these words you need to write your answers. So please learn this line well, because you will be able to fit this theme in most of the questions. Now let's move on to the explanation of stanzas. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. So here the poet Pablo Neruda tells that we refers to all human beings. We will count to 12. We all should count to 12, and after that we will all keep still. Still means quiet and motionless. Nobody will speak anything. Now students, why has the poet used this word 12 here? So in your paper also they may ask you what is the significance of 12. The poet has used this because there are 12 hours in a clock and 12 months in a year. तो पोएट आपको कहना चाहता है कि हम सब 12 तक गिनती करेंगे और उसके बाद सभी शांत होके चुप होकर बैठ जाएंगे. So here the poet is telling you the importance of meditation. We all should sit still, quiet and motionless, and then we should meditate. We should introspect ourselves. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So here the poet is saying that for once, let us not talk in any language on the surface of this earth. All should keep quiet. Let's not speak in any language. So sometimes language also becomes a barrier between people of different countries or states. And when we speak in a language, there is misunderstanding, fights are there. So the poet is saying that we all should keep still and should not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So he is also telling you not to be agitated and asks us to stop moving our arms so much for 1 second. Now students, here the word arms. Here the poet has used the poetic device pun. Pun is used wherever the word conveys two meanings. Here arms means body part, and the second meaning of arms is weapons, which are used in wars. And on the face of the earth, here the poet has used the poetic device personification. Now, let us discuss some questions. So what is the significance of the number 12? This we have already discussed, that there are 12 hours in a clock and 12 months in an year. So it is a measure of time. Which two activities does the poet want us to stop? The poet wants us to keep quiet and not speak. And he does not want us to move our arms. So these are the activities that the poet wants us to stop. What does the poet mean by let's not speak in any language? So here the poet means that nothing should be spoken either verbally or non-verbally, so that there is no misunderstanding at all. Describe the pun on the word arms. Very important question. Here arms refers to weapons and the arms in the human body. I hope this stanza is clear to you. Let's move on to the next stanza. Next stanza is, it would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Now students, sudden strangeness. Which poetic device is used here? It is alliteration. Because sudden and strangeness, both words start with the letter S. So that is why the poetic device used is alliteration. Now the poet is saying that it would be an exotic moment. Exotic moment means enticing moment, unusual and rare moment, an extraordinary moment, beautiful moment. Which moment is going to be exotic moment? When we all human beings will sit still and do not speak. Then what would happen? Without rush. Rush means hurry. Nobody would be in hurry. There will be no rush or hurry for a second. Without engines. It means, engines means machinery. So engines and other machines must stop for a moment And it would be a rare moment in the history of mankind. Then all of us shall enjoy the sudden strangeness of the moment together. वो मोमेंट जब कोई कुछ नहीं बोलेगा, सभी शांति से बैठे होंगे, किसी को कहीं आने जाने की जल्दी नहीं होगी, कोई रश नहीं होगा, कोई मशीन्स या इंजन्स की आवाज नहीं आ रही होगी, तो उस मोमेंट में क्या होगा कि द होल ह्यूमैनिटी विल बाइंड टुगेदर. We all will enjoy that sudden strangeness of the moment. And why would that moment appear to be strange? Because we are not in a habit of sitting quiet. All the time we are running, rushing, and speaking. So that is why the moment when all will sit and meditate will be an exotic moment for us all. Because that sudden and strange moment is going to bind the humanity together. Next stanza. Fishermen in the cold sea. Cold sea means sea near the poles. Would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now his hurt hands. All three words start with H. So once again, the poet has used the poetic device alliteration. Now here, the poet wants that the fishermen would not harm the whales in the cold sea of polar regions. Even the man gathering salt with his own hands must take care of his hurt hands. Now students, when all will be quiet, then the fishermen won't go to the sea and they would not harm the whales, the fish in the sea. So in a way, we will be protecting our environment. And the man who gathers salts would get some time to reflect at the pain and harm his strenuous task has caused him. He would get time to heal his hurt hands. So now, what will happen if there is no rush or running of engines? There will be peace all around if there is no rush or the sound of the running engines and the machines. What sort of moment will it be? It will be a very enticing and beautiful moment. How would all of us feel at that moment? All of us will enjoy the unusualness and sudden strangeness of that moment. And what do fishermen usually do in the cold sea? Fishermen usually catch fish, particularly whales in the cold sea. What does the poet ask fishermen not to do? Poet क्या चाहता है? Fishermen को क्या नहीं करना चाहिए? The poet asks fishermen not to hurt or injure the whales in the sea. What will the man gathering salt do? The man gathering salt will stop for a while and tend to his wounded hands, his hurt hands, injured hands. What do hurt hands imply? Hurt hands imply the destruction that humans have caused to themselves and the environment in pursuit of their selfish needs. So human beings are very greedy in order to fulfill their selfish needs. They don't shirk from destroying the environment and themselves too. So students, I hope this stanza is clear. Let's move on to the next stanza. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Now, students, in your paper, many times they ask you about the different types of wars mentioned in the poem. So, these are green wars and their meaning too. Green wars means wars against environment. Wars with gas, it means wars in which poisonous gases are used. Wars with fire, fire means firearms, means the weapons, the bombs, the bombs which we use, the ammunition which we use during wars. So there are three types of wars: green wars, wars with gas, and wars with fire. So now such kind of wars result in victory, but ironically, this victory is without any survivors. Even if the war is won, there is no survivor left in order to celebrate the victory of the war. So here, victory with no survivors. So here the poetic device hyperbole is used because the poet is exaggerating. So students, in this stanza, the poet is saying that the warmongers, the people who are after the wars, in the moment of silence, they would also get time to put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade of the tree, doing nothing. So all kinds of wars must be stopped at once. The green wars against the environment, wars with poisonous gases, and wars with firearms must be stopped now. In such wars, victory is meaningless as there are no survivors left after war. So instead of fighting and waging wars, what people should do? People should come out in their best dresses. They must go out for a walk with their brothers. They must move about under the shady trees and enjoy doing nothing. So here the the examiner is going to ask you about the different types of wars and the meaning, and also the poetic devices here: clean clothes and wars with. So here the poet has used alliteration. So now those people, the warmongers, in that exotic moment of silence, they would be moving under the shade of trees, strengthening the message of peace and togetherness. That is universal brotherhood. So this is the message of the poet. Next stanza. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Inactivity means lethargic or passivity, sitting lazily. So now the poet is telling you to keep still and quiet. So now here he wants to make clear that we should not confuse this stillness with total inactivity. So he is telling you to sit quietly for some time in order to reflect on our actions, in order to introspect, in order to analyze our actions. It doesn't mean that we should leave all our works and sit passively. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. Now students, no truck with death, this is an idiom. It means having nothing to do with end of life, not associated with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now, students, the poet says that doing nothing at all would amount to death. But poet has no association with death. We think that life is to move about. Anyhow, our single-minded focus is on moving our lives. So we should not be always on the move. For a while, we should also take rest. We should also do nothing. Then what would happen? A huge silence. A long silence can do us a lot of good. Men become sad when they fail to understand themselves. We don't know what our actual need is. We just run after earning money or keeping our lives moving. So that is why they feel helpless when they threaten themselves with death. But a long silence can soothe our feelings and help us in moving this sadness. So, in this way, if we spend moments in silence and introspect ourselves, we can escape from the threatening calls of death. तो यहाँ पे पोएट आपको बताना चाहता है कि अगर मैं आपको कुछ मोमेंट चुप रह के इंट्रोस्पेक्ट करने के लिए कहता हूं तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हमने अपना सारा काम धाम छोड़ के बैठ जाना है, क्योंकि अगर सब कुछ रुक जाएगा इट इज लाइक डेथ. और पोएट कहता है मेरा डेथ से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. हम इंसान क्या करते हैं, हमारा सिंगल माइंडेड फोकस क्या होता है कि अपनी लाइफ को बस धकेलते जाओ, मूव करते जाओ. पर अगर कुछ समय हम कुछ भी नहीं करते हैं, चुपचाप बैठते हैं, तो वो जो साइलेंस है वो हमारा फायदा करेगी. हम हमेशा निराश रहते हैं, सैड रहते हैं कि हमें कोई समझता नहीं है, हम खुद को भी नहीं समझ पाते कि हमें क्या चाहिए. तो जब आप वो एग्जॉटिक मोमेंट आपको मिलेगी, आप चुपचाप बैठोगे, तो आप अपने एक्शंस को एनालाइज कर पाओगे और आप थ्रेटनिंग कॉल्स ऑफ डेथ से बच सकोगे. So students, let us discuss some questions. What does we refer to in the above lines? So we refers to the human beings who are always thinking about their own progress and advancement. Next question. What do people pursue single-mindedly? So people pursue single-mindedly on keeping their lives moving. Which is the better course the poet suggests? The poet suggests that it would be better if they give themselves rest for some time. For once, they may do nothing. Next question. What is the sadness that the poet refers to in the poem? The poet refers to the sadness which arises due to the fact that people fail to understand themselves. They have no time to introspect about their actions and their consequences. So that's why we remain sad. How can a huge silence do good to us? A huge silence can do good to us because we are able to achieve peace in this silence. It helps us in analyzing ourselves and our actions, interrupting the sadness of threatening ourselves with death. So that exotic moment will help us in creating mutual understanding, harmony, peace, and universal brotherhood. Now let's move on to the next stanza. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So now we should learn a lesson from the earth. What does the earth teach us? The earth teaches us that there is life under apparent stillness. It means that we can still be alive even if we appear to be still and calm. Earth seems still but nurtures life under the apparent stillness, when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. For example, seed that is there inside the earth seems to be dead, but later in the month of spring germinates as a new life. So, nature is eternal. It creates, reproduces, dies, and regenerates. Thus, human beings can learn from the earth or nature to be quiet and still and grow at our own pace. We should make progress, but without any aggression, selfishness, and the urge for destruction. So, what does the poet mean to achieve by counting to 12? Once again, the poet is saying, now I will count to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So, the poet wants to achieve peace by counting up to 12. He wants us to introspect in a moment of silence. He wants to create that feeling of mutual understanding, harmony, and universal brotherhood among human beings. What does the poet ask us to do? Poet asks us to keep quiet while he is counting up to 12. What is always alive when everything seems dead? Only the earth is alive when everything else appears to be dead. So the earth can teach us as humans teach one another. In the similar manner, the poet has said the earth can teach us. So here the poet has personified earth. So the poetic device used here is personification. So students, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you have understood the poem well, and in future I will try to bring new video on MCQs of this poem. So thank you very much. Kindly subscribe my channel, and if you think the content is useful to you, please like it, share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.